That's your Gap hoodie, is that right?
You
That's you. Who are you shooting at?
No.
Alright, now back it up again.
That's one of the dudes that murked Young Dolph admitting to the murder on tape. He's got more to say though, including Yo Gotti's role in the plan and who else is on the list. Obviously, the street cats ain't too happy that he's singing, and he may have to watch his back for the rest of his life. Let's get into it. The murder that shook the streets and the beef that started it all. Yo, the streets of Memphis, Tennessee don't play around when it comes to keeping it real. But even in a city that's seen its share of drama, ain't nothing hit quite like what went down on that November day in 2021. We're talking about the straight up assassination of one of the realest to ever do it, Young Dolph. This wasn't just some random beef that got out of hand. Nah, this was the kind of situation that had the whole hood talking, the whole city mourning, and the entire hip-hop world asking one big question: how did it come to this? On November 17th, 2021, the 36-year-old rapper, born Adolph Robert Thornton Jr., was gunned down in broad daylight at Makita's Homemade Butter Cookies, a spot he used to hit up regularly to get his favorite treats. This wasn't some late-night situation in a dark alley. Nah, this was middle of the day, out in the open, with no regard for who might see or what consequences might come. Young Dolph wasn't just another rapper trying to make it out the hood. This man was a certified legend in Memphis, a self-made millionaire who built his paper route empire from the ground up without bowing down to nobody. The shooters hit him with 22 rounds. 22 shots, fam. That's not just murder, that's overkill. That's sending a message. That's making an example out of somebody. The surveillance cameras caught the whole thing on tape. Two dudes in ski masks rolling up in a white Mercedes, hopping out with the blickies and letting them things go while Dolph was just trying to grab some cookies. After they emptied their clips, they dipped out like it was nothing, leaving behind a whole city in shock and a community demanding answers about who would do something this cold-blooded and why. The Memphis PD wasn't playing around after this went down. Within a few months of the murder, authorities had rounded up 4 suspects and hit them with charges: Justin Straight Drop Johnson and Cornelius Smith, who were supposedly the shooters who actually caught the body; Hernandez Govan, who the feds said was the mastermind putting the whole operation together; and Jamarcus Johnson, Justin's half-brother, who allegedly helped the shooters get away and collect the bread for the hit. The system was starting to move, arrests were being made, but anybody who knows how the streets work knew that these 4 cats probably weren't the whole story. Somebody wanted Young Dolph dead, and the question everybody was asking was, who put the battery in these dudes' backs to make this happen? To really understand what led to Young Dolph catching those bullets, you gotta go way back and look at one of the nastiest beefs Memphis rap ever saw: the ongoing war between Young Dolph and another Memphis heavy hitter, Yo Gotti. This wasn't just some Twitter finger situation or a couple of subliminal dices in songs. This beef was deep, personal, and went back years, involving crews, labels, shootings, and ultimately a body count that included some of the most respected names in the city. This was the type of beef that had real street consequences, the kind where people on both sides were ready to slide at any moment, and where the tension was so thick you could cut it with a knife every time their names got mentioned in the same sentence. The whole situation kicked off way back around 2014, when Young Dolph was coming up in the game and starting to make noise with his independent hustle. Yo Gotti, real name Mario Mims, who was already established in Memphis with his collective music group, CMG label, allegedly tried to sign the younger rapper. On paper, it looked like a smart business move, an established OG trying to bring a hungry young talent into his camp, but Dolph wasn't with it. He had his own vision, his own paper route empire he was trying to build, and he wasn't about to become just another artist on somebody else's roster getting told what to do and how to move. Dolph wanted to be his own boss, control his own masters, and make his money his way, which is some boss shit that you gotta respect, even if it rubbed some people the wrong way. But apparently, Yo Gotti didn't take the rejection too well. According to Dolph himself, dude went from being his biggest fan to his biggest hater after he turned down the deal. In 2016, Dolph even tweeted about it, saying, "Bra went from being my #1 fan and wanting to sign me to being my biggest hater." That tweet said everything about how Dolph felt, like this man who used to show him love and respect had switched up and started moving funny. Once Dolph made it clear he wasn't gonna fall in line. And in the streets, when somebody switches up on you like that, especially over business and ego, that's when things can get real dangerous real quick. The beef didn't stay quiet for long. Both rappers started throwing shots in their music, and it got personal fast. In 2016, Young Dolph dropped an album called King of Memphis, which was a direct challenge to Yo Gotti's long-held claim to that title. But the most disrespectful moment came in 2017 when Young Dolph released Play With Yo Bitch, a track that went straight for Gotti's neck and didn't hold back nothing. Dolph was claiming he had relations with the mother of Gotti's child. He had a Gotti lookalike in the video getting clowned. And the cover art showed missed calls from Ho Gotti Baby Moma. That's the type of disrespect that in street culture you can't just let slide. That's the type of violation that makes dudes want to respond with more than just bars. And when you're dealing with people who got real street ties and access to shooters, that type of disrespect can quickly turn into something deadly.
The whole world never say that when they egging on the beat. When everybody put on a song, everybody egging out, nobody don't be saying that. We feel like that right now.
And that's when things went from rap beef to real street beef. Because in Memphis, a city with deep gang culture and territorial pride, these public disses don't just live on Spotify and YouTube, they got real world consequences. When you're disrespecting someone who got real shooters on their team, when you're challenging someone's reputation in a city where your street cred is everything, it's only a matter of time before somebody decides to handle it the street way. And unfortunately, that's exactly what happened. Not once, but multiple times. The first major incident went down in February 2017 during the CIAA tournament weekend in Charlotte, North Carolina. On February 25th, Young Dolph's bulletproof whip got hit with over 100 shots in what was clearly a coordinated hit. Somebody wanted him dead bad enough to dump 100 rounds into his vehicle. The fact that Dolph survived was nothing short of a miracle, and it was only because he had the foresight to get that truck bulletproofed. But the violence didn't stop there. Just 7 months later, in September 2017, Young Dolph got shot multiple times outside the Loews Hollywood Hotel in Los Angeles, and this time it was way more serious. He was in critical condition, fighting for his life. Initial reports had Yo Gotti listed as a person of interest since he was staying at the same hotel, but the LAPD quickly came out and said he wasn't a suspect. One of Gotti's people, Corey McClendon, got arrested for attempted murder, but just like before, he ended up beating the case. Third time was the charm, it seems. The trial, the snitching, and the bombshell allegations. When Justin Straight Drop Johnson's trial finally kicked off in September 2024, nearly 3 years after Young Dolph got smoked, every single person in Memphis who was connected to the streets had their eyes locked on that courtroom. This wasn't just another hood case where some nobody caught a body. Nah, this was the type of trial that could potentially expose some powerful people in the Memphis rap game. Johnson was facing first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, and being a felon with a strap, the type of charges that if you get convicted, you're basically looking at spending the rest of your natural life in a cage. The prosecution, led by Shelby County Assistant District Attorney Paul Hagerman, came with all types of evidence. They had the surveillance footage showing 2 masked-up shooters hopping out of a white Mercedes and letting them hammers blow while Dolph was in the cookie shop. They had phone records putting Johnson and his co-defendants right in the area when it went down. They had ballistics linking the guns used in the murder to the suspects. But the most damaging evidence, the thing that really sealed Johnson's fate, was the testimony from his own co-defendant, Cornelius Smith, who decided to flip and cooperate with the feds in exchange for possibly catching a lighter sentence. Cornelius Smith's testimony was straight explosive, and when he started talking, the whole case went to another level. Smith didn't just admit to his role in pulling the trigger on Young Dolph. He started dropping names and alleging that this hit went way higher up the food chain than just 2 street dudes beefing. According to Smith's sworn testimony, the murder of Young Dolph wasn't no random street violence or personal beef between low-level hustlers. Nah, Smith claimed that the hit on Young Dolph was ordered by none other than Anthony Big Jook Mims, who just happened to be Yo Gotti's older brother and a major player in the CMG operation.
Well, since our last interview, Justin Johnson, aka Straight Drop, got sentenced to life in prison for the murder of Young Dolph.
Yeah.
And in fact, I think they gave him another 50 years.
Smith testified that Big Jook put up a $100,000 bag on Young Dolph's head, 100 bands for somebody to body one of Memphis's biggest rap stars, according to Smith's version of events. The money was supposed to be split up. Him and Johnson were each supposed to get 40 racks for actually doing the deed, while Hernandez Govan, the alleged mastermind who supposedly planned the whole operation, was supposed to get 20 bands for coordinating everything. Smith even claimed that him and Johnson had meetings with Big Jook himself in the weeks before the murder to discuss how it was going to go down, and that after they successfully killed Dolph, they hopped on FaceTime with Big Jook to confirm that the job was done. But Smith's testimony got even more interesting when he claimed that somebody affiliated with CMG paid 50 bands for his legal fees after he got locked up in January 2022. According to Smith, he couldn't identify exactly who cut the check, but he was adamant that the money came from CMG, suggesting that the label, or at least someone connected to it, was trying to protect and take care of the people who had carried out the hit. If that's really true, it would mean this wasn't just about one person ordering a hit. It would indicate a broader organizational involvement, possibly even obstruction of justice or accessory after the fact type charges that could reach much further up the ladder.
Did you know Big Juke?
Yeah, Jig was my boy.
Oh, that was your friend.
Yeah, that was my boy.
Well, in the trial, in the Justin Johnson straight drop trial, they say that Juke had a 100K hit on Dolph.
But here's where things get tricky. Justin Johnson's defense attorney, Luke Evans, came out swinging and straight challenged Smith's credibility. Evans argued that Smith was making stuff up or exaggerating details to get himself a better deal from the prosecution. He pointed to a letter that Smith allegedly wrote to his family from jail, where Smith supposedly admitted he would say anything to avoid spending the rest of his life locked up. If that letter is real, it completely undermines Smith as a witness and makes you question whether anything he said can be trusted, or if he was just telling the prosecutors exactly what they wanted to hear to save his own skin. On top of that, Evans highlighted some major inconsistencies in Smith's story, especially when it came to the money. Smith testified that he was promised $40,000 for his role in the murder, but admitted he only received $800 total, $500 initially, and then another $300 later. Despite all these credibility issues though, the jury bought what the prosecution was selling. On September 26, 2024, Justin Johnson got found guilty on all counts: first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, and being a felon with a weapon. The verdict came after the jury looked at all the evidence, the surveillance footage, the phone records, and yeah, Smith's testimony, despite all its problems. Johnson got sentenced to life in prison, which in Memphis means a minimum of 51 years behind bars. Dude is around 30 years old right now, so if he somehow survives his whole sentence, he'd be about 81 years old before he'd even be eligible to get out, basically ensuring that his life as a free man is over.
How did you feel when Straight Drop got sentenced to the murder?
I don't feel no type of way. I don't put myself in there like that. I kill myself.
But while Justin Johnson's conviction gave young Dolph's family and fans some sense of justice, it also opened up a whole can of worms about who else might have been involved in the conspiracy. Because if Smith's testimony about Big Jook is legit, and the jury seemed to think it was credible enough to convict Johnson, then everybody's wondering who else knew about this? Who else was in on it? And the biggest question on everybody's mind, did Yo Gotti himself know what his brother was allegedly planning, or was he kept in the dark about the whole situation? There's no direct evidence that's been made public that ties Yo Gotti personally to ordering or approving the hit. All the allegations focus on Big Jook, not Gotti. But here's the thing, Big Jook was Yo Gotti's blood brother and was deeply involved in CMG operations. Big Jook himself got killed in a shooting in Memphis in January 2024, just months before these allegations about his role in Dolph's murder would come out in court. Big Jook's murder went down outside a Memphis restaurant during a repast after a funeral, and to this day, nobody's been arrested for it. Some people in the streets are saying it was retaliation for young Dolph's murder, maybe carried out by people from Paper Route Empire, but that's all speculation. There's no proof of that. The timing of Big Jook's death is mad significant though, because it means he never got a chance to respond to Smith's allegations, never got to defend himself against the claims that he put up a $100,000 bounty on Dolph, and never got to potentially tell his side of the story, or implicate or clear other people who might have been involved. His death basically silenced what could have been a key witness in understanding the full picture of what happened. The other big player in this alleged conspiracy is Hernandez Govan, who's accused of being the mastermind who organized and coordinated the whole hit. Govan pleaded not guilty and was found not guilty in August 2025. Word is that Govan had strong ties to both Yo Gotti and Big Jook, with social media posts and other evidence showing he was deep in the CMG circle. But just like with Gotti, there's no public evidence that directly connects Govan to Yo Gotti, specifically regarding the murder plot. The allegations focus on his relationship with Big Jook. Govan allegedly turned down a plea deal from the prosecutors, choosing to maintain his innocence and take his chances with a jury. The fourth defendant, Jamarcus Johnson, who's Justin Johnson's half-brother, took a plea deal in June 2023 and admitted to accessory charges, specifically admitting that he helped the shooters escape after the murder and helped facilitate payment. His testimony included references to text messages where Smith was asking about Big Jook, which backs up some of what Smith said about Big Jook's alleged involvement. But just like Smith, Jamarcus is cooperating with prosecutors, hoping to get a lighter sentence. So you gotta take his testimony with a grain of salt, knowing he's got motivation to tell them what they want to hear. Beyond these four cats who got charged, investigators looked into possible connections between the murder and other people in Yo Gotti's orbit, especially Black Youngsta, the CMG artist who was involved in that 2017 Charlotte shooting. shooting. In early 2022, right after Johnson and Smith got arrested, there were reports that they had hired Art Horn, a lawyer who previously represented both Yo Gotti and Black Youngsta, which obviously raised eyebrows and made people wonder if CMG was still connected to the case. Horn later dropped them as clients though, and he's publicly denied that he was hired by or on behalf of CMG. Still, that brief connection between the accused killers and a lawyer who had ties to Gotti's camp added another layer to an already complicated situation. The big question that's still hanging over this whole case, the question that remains frustratingly unanswered even after Johnson's conviction, is this. If Big Jook really did order the hit on young Dolph, was he moving on his own accord, handling street business without his brother's knowledge? Or was Yo Gotti aware of what was being planned, involved in the decision-making, or even the person who ultimately gave the green light? The lack of direct evidence connecting Gotti to the murder plot, combined with Big Jook's death before he could ever be questioned about his alleged role, means we might never know the complete truth about who was ultimately responsible for ordering young Dolph's execution. The unanswered questions, the street justice, and the cost of the game. One of the biggest unanswered questions revolves around the allegation that somebody affiliated with CMG dropped 50 bands on Cornelius Smith's legal fees. If this claim is legit, and Smith testified to it under oath in court, it would suggest a level of organizational involvement that goes way beyond just Big Jook acting like some rogue operator. Think about what that would mean. If CMG or someone within the organization was willing to pay that type of bread to help defend someone accused of bodying young Dolph, it would indicate either direct involvement in the murder plot itself, or at minimum, an organized effort to protect the people who carried out the hit and keep them from cooperating with the feds. However, the details about this alleged payment are frustratingly vague. It's also worth thinking about other possible explanations for how Smith's legal fees might have been paid, if they were even paid at all by someone other than himself or his people. In Memphis's tight-knit street culture, it's not unusual for associates, homies, or even more distant connections to help with legal fees for someone facing serious time, especially if there's concern that the person might flip and start cooperating with the authorities. Another troubling aspect of this whole situation is the massive difference between the alleged $100,000 bounty that Big Jook supposedly put on young Dolph's head and the measly $800 that Cornelius Smith claims he actually received. This ain't just a small discrepancy. This is a staggering gap that represents less than 1% of what was supposedly promised.
Straight Drop only got $800 for that hit. Can you imagine killing somebody and your reward is a PlayStation and maybe a game or two?
You don't know if that's true or not.
If you're a street dude being offered 40 racks to catch a body, and you successfully body the target, only to receive $800, you'd presumably be furious and would likely want to retaliate, or at minimum refuse to protect the people who shorted you. Yet Smith cooperated with authorities and testified against Johnson, all while claiming he got played on the payment. This raises an obvious question. Why would the people who allegedly ordered the hit, who supposedly had access to $100,000 and enough money to later drop 50 bands on legal fees, short the actual shooters to such an extreme degree? One possible explanation is that the $100,000 figure was always inflated or straight up BS. Or maybe the full payment was genuinely supposed to happen but never got delivered because of Big Jook's death just 2 years after the murder, or because paying the full amount might create a paper trail that could be traced back to whoever was funding the operation. Whatever the real explanation is, the fact that Smith only got $800 for such a high-profile murder undermines the whole narrative of a well-organized, well-funded hit orchestrated by a powerful music industry figure and his organization. If this were truly a CMG-sanctioned operation, with 100 bands available for the bounty and another 50 bands available for legal fees, you would expect the operation to be handled way more professionally and for the shooters to actually receive what they were promised. The sloppy, poorly compensated nature of how it actually went down suggests something more amateur and disorganized, which raises questions about whether Big Jook and CMG's involvement was as extensive and official as Smith's testimony makes it sound.
It's a messed up situation. It's a messed up situation. And the fact that both, people were getting killed on both sides, there was other shootings and murders that were happening, man.
The January 2024 murder of Big Jook adds yet another tragic and complicated layer to this already messy situation. Big Jook got bodied outside a Memphis restaurant during a repass, a meal after after a funeral, with his mom's reportedly there having to witness her son get killed. Another person got hit in the shooting, and despite police offering a $4,000 reward for information, nobody's been arrested, and the case remains unsolved. The targeting of Big Jook, coming just 2 years after Young Dolph's murder, and at a time when allegations about his role in ordering that hit were presumably already circulating in Memphis's street community, has led many people to speculate that his killing was street justice carried out by people affiliated with Young Dolph or Paper Route Empire. What Big Jook's death does accomplish, however, is eliminate what could have been the most important witness in understanding the full truth of Young Dolph's murder. If Big Jook really did order the hit, he presumably had knowledge about who, if anyone, above him knew about or approved the plan. Did he discuss it with his brother Yo Gotti? Did he act with the knowledge and blessing of others in CMG's leadership? Or was he a lone wolf who made the decision on his own, maybe motivated by loyalty to his brother's organization and a desire to eliminate what he saw as a threat and a disrespectful rival? We'll never know the answers to these questions from Big Jook himself because he's dead, and whatever truth he knew died with him. His murder effectively silenced what could have been the key to unraveling the entire conspiracy and understanding who, ultimately, should be held responsible for Young Dolph's death. The larger question that Young Dolph's murder forces us to confront is about the deadly intersection of rap music, street culture, and violence in the hood.
But when it's egging on, it's all fun and games. When everybody promoting the beef against other rappers, they love it. That's the song you'll go watch, go listen to before you listen to his whole album.
The hip-hop industry and its fans have a complicated relationship with beef. On one hand, lyrical competition and rivalry have been part of hip-hop culture since the beginning. The battle rap tradition, the competitive nature of claiming to be the best, using diss tracks to assert dominance or clap back at disrespect. These elements have produced some of hip-hop's most memorable and artistically significant moments. On the other hand, when these beefs involve people who aren't just artists, but are also connected to real street life, gang culture, and actual criminal elements, the consequences can be deadly. The line between entertainment and actual violence becomes dangerously blurred, and what starts as a marketing tool or artistic expression can escalate into actual murders.
Shit, them people slanging iron, like, people hurt for that shit, so that's why I hate that rap beef shit. I hate it, bro. I just hate it. I ain't never seen nothing good come from it. Never.
Young Dolph left behind children who will have to grow up without their pops. Big Jook left behind family who witnessed his murder. The shooters and organizers of these crimes are spending or will spend the rest of their lives locked up in a cage, their own lives essentially over before they even hit middle age. And for what? For pride? For respect? For market share in Memphis's rap scene? For loyalty to a label or a neighborhood? The cost is astronomical, and whatever benefits there might have been, if any, are microscopic in comparison to what was lost.
You know how many people miss Dolph, man? And miss Big Jook, man? It fed a lot of people, bro. We just, you know, we is on the outside looking in, we just think about that shit a couple days and whatever else on social media after that, but they families, they children, they brothers and they cousins, them people hurt for that.
The real talk is that we may never know the complete truth about who ultimately should be held responsible for Young Dolph's murder. What we can say with absolute certainty is that Young Dolph's murder represents a tragic waste of life and talent, the destruction of multiple families, and a stark illustration of the deadly consequences that can result when rap beef intersects with street culture and real violence. Young Dolph was, by all accounts, a talented artist, a successful businessman, a generous community member, and a beloved figure who had overcome significant adversity to build a remarkable career on his own terms. His death robbed the hip-hop community of his music, robbed Memphis of one of its most prominent and positive figures, and robbed his children of their father. And while justice may have been served to some extent in the form of convictions for those who pulled the triggers, the larger questions about why he was really killed, who actually ordered the hit, and whether powerful figures in Memphis's music industry were involved remain frustratingly unresolved.
But some records sold that the black man ain't gonna get the money for.
Thank you for watching this video. If you'd like to watch another fascinating video like this, click on one of the boxes on your screen right now.